Hey guys, we're back again with another aircraft kit review. This time we're going to be looking at Roden's Fokker D.VII Early. This will actually be the first World War One era aircraft we've ever looked at here. So let's crack it on open and take a look. Oops. Aside for right now. So first up, we've got our main sprue containing our two fuselage halves, a couple different prop styles, our tail control surfaces, as well as some going to go into assembling the engine and the structure to connect the engine to the fuselage. Also have a couple parts for the cockpit, which is pretty minimal, but then again, aircraft of this era had very little in the way of cockpit, so that's quite fine there. Continue on, since this is the early version, does also include parts for the later version's engine, which are these two inner ones, with the outer ones being ones that are used on this version. The amount of detailing on these is more than adequate, so it'll build up quite nicely to represent that early engine. Beyond this, we also have our machine guns, and this is where, unfortunately, the detailing is basically as good as it's probably going to get in plastic. Would have been nice if they included some photo etch that could represented the main barrels on them, but no, is what it is. So if you were to add a little detail, or we're going to spend a little money to add detail, instead of aftermarket guns would be probably my first choice. Next up, we've got some additional detail parts, including the ailerons, wheels, wing struts, and so forth. Next up, continuing on, we've got some more structural parts for the engine and all company details there. Then lastly, we have our main wing sections. Now, one thing I noticed on these is that they are of a very thick and hard plastic, so that may prove troublesome when it comes to cleaning them up after you get them off the sprue. But beyond that, not a whole lot to say. Correct shape, correct representation. Overall, very nicely done. And yeah, moving on to decals. Given a couple different options for decals to represent several different machines, this is where I feel like the decals are not the greatest. Some of the sharpness is not really there. Again, this is all relative to my eye. Why all the color registration is great, especially in the whites. Just the sharpness isn't there. Now, granted, this is an older kit. You obviously technology changes and so forth. If I were to say anything, may replace the crosses and actually paint those. But continuing on, we got some additional detail decals. Now, this is probably one of the best inclusions in this kit, is the camouflaging. Because unless you have something like a Cricut or some other type of paper cutter, cutting out the little blotches to do this would be very difficult. You're given set for the upper and lower wings, and yeah, having these on hand is a very nice thing for most people. If you do have a Cricut or something like that, I would say still consider going that option, even though it will be a little on the troublesome side, as obviously, since these are decals, getting them to sit right and matched up and all that will be problematic. So it may be worth it in the long run to just paint it. But if you don't have something like that, yeah, it's not worth your time. Do what you have to do to get those to work. So, going into instructions, starts out with the engine and cockpit areas and sort of builds things up from there, including assembling all the wings before attaching them to the fuselage. continues on from there, building up pretty quickly, actually. And one very nice thing about this kit is that it doesn't have any rigging. If you look at actual examples, at least the ones that I was able to find, there is no rigging. So this is definitely one that's on the easier side of the spectrum. So again, since these planes really did not have that much complexity to them, so it should be a quick and easy build. Again, paint for 4 different aircraft. All the paint cues are in Humbrol. But yeah, it should build together pretty easily. So, overall, the subject matter may not be for everyone, I do think if you are interested in getting into World War I aircraft, this is not a bad option. Now, it's not super expensive like some kits, and it's pretty easy and pretty basic. So it's definitely one to consider, as it would allow you to get your feet wet. Only complaint would be some of the detailing could be a little better, and it also doesn't come with a pilot figure, so you may have to source that elsewhere. But beyond this, it's not a bad kit. It's a good introductory kit. So that was a look at Roden's 148th scale Fokker D.VII early. Nice little beginner biplane kit, and it's one to consider looking at. So until next time.